Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today. Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio no pictures live stream. Please listen to this presentation as you would a radio broadcast as you're driving along in your car, your truck, or on public transport. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the idea or the concept, the psychological architecture, if I can use that term, of the woke brigade, where we can't let the other side, we can't let them win. They can't let them win anything. We can't let them have any success at all. and if they have any success, no matter how small it is, it means Nazis are taking over. Hitler personally. In fact, I just saw Hitler going out the back door a second ago. Now, I noticed with this, there are other examples, and I'll cover a few of them. But with the super woke, off the planet super woke show, The Acolyte, written by a radical lesbian activist, with all sorts of leftist woke activists climbing all over it, lesbians in the cast and lesbian scenes and so on. They obviously aren't seeking to entertain, far from it. They're seeking to push the message and push it brutally and thoroughly. Now, the trouble with this entertainment, and they spent some serious money. I think it was somewhere between 180 and $200 million was spent on it. I don't know where that money went, given the quality of the acting and the special effects and so on. But anyway, the show was I saw a few minutes of a few trailers and a few minutes of a couple of the shows, and it was hard to believe that it was it made it past the editors, and a lot of people would have had to sign off on that. I mean, that's big bucks they're spending, so you think there would have been quite a substantial oversight. But it seems that the oversight was, as long as it's pushing the message, then that's okay. We can sacrifice other things such as quality of the script, and, the continuity, the acting, the disbelievability of the whole thing. Now, I get it; it's a sci-fi show. I suppose if you were pitching it at maybe young children, you may get away with some of that nonsense, but it didn't have enough glitz to offset the very poor quality, again, production, scripting, and so on, terrible acting and the like. A few of the scenes that I saw were cringe. They were so bad. And again, I just don't know how they got signed off, unless that the whole intention was to deliver the message and force the message on all those far-right Nazis that the woke brigade believe are everywhere. They have a mission to convert Nazis. Well, who are the Nazis? Well, everyone who isn't us. Wow, that's a lot of Nazis to convert. Well, it just shows how much work we have to do. So when the show like this fails, because it's supposedly, it still has to meet some sort of market test. That is, enough people have to want to watch it. Now, if you look at the number of people who'd be committed to that sort of level of radical messaging, it's a very small percentage of the population. If it's even 5%, I'd be surprised. And those who approve of that propaganda in order to convert all these evil Nazis and sign off on the budgets, they're one in every 500 people. So and they wouldn't watch this rubbish anyway. As much as they want woke propaganda forced on the rest of us, those people try and watch quality entertainment or movies and programs that actually entertain. So, like Joseph Stalin, for all his fixation with paranoia for the citizens of the Soviet Union, he exclusively was entertained on a diet of American movies. And he loved, in particular, he loved Westerns. He wasn't watching or listening to or being subject to that nonsense propaganda messaging. And this is in the height of the Soviet Union days when arrest warrants for supposed counter-revolutionaries were being signed by the many hundreds per day. And Stalin was turning up at International Women's Day meetings talking about the equality of women, while women were being dragged away to the gulags or murdered or beaten to death in the secret police detention camps and so on. So yeah, we need to come to grips with the reality that the people pushing this propaganda on us, it's to control us. It's certainly not to put any controls on them, far from it. The opposite, in fact. So the Acolyte, the Star Wars Acolyte show was cancelled. There's something that terrible was always going to be. Now, there's a limit to the money that they'll spend on propaganda, and that's what the Acolyte was. It was propaganda. And $200 million for a show, that's kind of getting up there. This is, now Disney doesn't have much in the way of offsetting shows that are hugely successful and raking in the big bucks. So they, just in basic economic terms, this sort of expenditure on something that doesn't make any money is a bit hard to justify. And at some point, they're going to say, well, okay, well, we want to continue with the message. we want to put out this propaganda, and we've got a mission to convert all the Nazis and beat the far right and all this sort of thing. But really, we can't spend this much money on doing it. We have to find other ways. So they've either got to compel people to watch the Acolyte. We'll kill you if you don't. Well, I just wonder how far away that sort of situation is. But for the moment, the Acolyte fails, it's out. And but the blowback from the very heavily amplified, and they've all got a big soapbox to stand on, from the media activists and the activist class generally, and their propagandists in the media, is to say, well, okay, the interesting thing is they can see, well, the show was crap. All right, it was crap. But we can't by cancelling the show, because people aren't watching it, by cancelling the show, you're letting the Nazis win. Hitler personally is winning because of this, because we're pushing the message to convert the Nazis, and then that message is being taken off. So that means the Nazis won, and Hitler has won. Therefore, we can't let the Nazis win. So this attitude of, or again, the sort of the mental architecture of it all, is that at any time woke fails or doesn't succeed, then that's not simply that it was done badly or the messaging was absurd, or this fantasy, this delusional fantasy that the world is awash with far right Nazis that all have to be, go to psychological re-education camps, which is what this propaganda is supposed to be doing. If you accept black lesbians into everything, then you're not a Nazi anymore. It's that level of absurdity that goes into their thinking. So if we force this on you and you accept it, then hey, you've been saved. You're not a Nazi. So they look at this as being part of a wider conversion campaign. So the beginning point is, well, there are Nazis everywhere. The Nazis control everything. The Nazis, determining what's right and what's wrong. Nazi, 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 Nazi. So what we're doing is we're the resistance. We're fighting back. We're fighting back against the Nazis. What do you mean fighting back? You mean you control all the media, you control all the entertainment industry, you control pretty much everything, but you're the resistance? That's an interesting way of looking at things. So they move to one step further, saying, okay, all right, we may control the institutions, but the value system that society lives by is a Nazi value system. So we may control all institutions, but we haven't converted their minds yet. We haven't turned them into woke zombies. So only when we have all of them, if even one Nazi, one in the whole universe remains, then that means Hitler is running everything. So we have to make sure so on that basis, that the messaging can never go for long enough and can never stop, because they can always claim there's always one Nazi somewhere, and until that Nazi is converted, the messaging has to continue. Now, it's not just the Acolyte. It's say Harley Davidson, for example, or Bud Light, or any of these that are also doing this this woke stuff, pushing the woke message, and white men are supposed to go to Nazi re-education training camps, all this sort of madness, insanity. If there's a pushback and people stop buying Bud Light, or there's a pushback against Harley Davidson, and then these people say, well, that's not just because this messaging is outrageous. How outrageous to call all these people Nazis and force them to go, this is an outrage on their civil rights. And no, it's not, because we're converting Nazis. Don't you see we're allowed to do it? They're the Nazis. We're the good people by forcing them to do these and falsely accusing them of X. So they view any climb down by the woke messaging that's forced on, any climb down at all, is a victory for Hitler personally. And this cannot be allowed to happen, cannot be allowed to stand. And so we must not allow them we must not climb back, we must not pull back at all from this messaging. We must double down, triple down, quadruple down, to force these people, either we have to grab them and just force them into it. It doesn't matter. This is what it must be. And any climb down, any back down, even any slowing down, is a victory for Hitler, and we can't allow that to happen. And that's why we have to double down on the whole thing. I mean, insanity on steroids. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.